Hello and welcome to join me as we explore the capital of Iceland, Reykjavik. This is episode number 3 where we visit Álftanes, perhaps the nicest part of the metropolitan area that in fact consists of 6 towns and 8 municipalities. My name is Gylfi and I will be your host while we explore Reykjavik as it's not presented in the tourist brochures. As usual, we start the journey on a map with the complete metropolitan area in front of us, divided into 6 municipalities, and this part is our destination. Álftanes is a town of its own, spread over a fairly large area by the coast, and it merged with the municipality Garðabær a few years back, and here it is in the background. The name Álftanes means Swan Peninsula, and swans can still be found there, along with dozens of other bird species and 2,500 human inhabitants. The peninsula is a little flat, so there is no need to use a drone like I'm doing now to get this panoramic view where we can see all the volcanoes by the plate boundaries on the Reykjanes Peninsula, and beside Álftanes to the west we find Hafnarfjörður. It is the first town we enter while driving into the capital region from Keflavik Airport, and not all realize that before we enter Reykjavík, first we have to drive through Hafnarfjörður, then Garðabær, Kópavogur, and it's only then when we enter the city. And I have been talking about this strange situation with the metropolitan area before, or why we need 6 municipalities, but in fact there were 7 not so long ago, before Álftanes and Garðabær merged. And those towns did not merge for the obvious economic reasons or just common sense. The town's finances had been bad for a long time, so they decided to drown their sorrows in a new state-of-the-art swimming pool. And that swimming pool was the last nail in the coffin. It bankrupted the municipality Álftanes. And the sarcastic Icelanders had a really good time for years talking about that story. The swimming pool that drowned the municipality. But to be fair, it was a bank collapse in 2008 that helped them a lot. Most of their bank debts, even though they were in Icelandic krónur, they were linked to foreign currencies. Then the krona dropped and the loans skyrocketed. And that fact, in addition to overly optimistic forecast of population growth, sales of building plots that didn't sell, it all helped them into bankruptcy. The municipality was only technically bankrupt, so it was Garðabær, the next town, that came to rescue. And it was decided to merge those 2 towns. But first, we needed elections. And the people in Álftanes said almost all yes, or somewhere around 86%. But Garðabær, who had to take over the debts, they just barely said yes, with 52% of the votes. But today, a decade later, I think we all agree that it was a good decision. This was a long-term investment for Garðabær, who took over the debts, and the kids in Álftanes. They were of course very happy because they got the first swimming pool in Iceland with a wave pool. And let's move to history now. I have plenty to say about that this time. And like you see, we are just by Reykjavík, the first settlement in Iceland. However, before the 18th century, there weren't that many good sources. And the first reliable sources say that a fairly dense settlement was formed here and grew quite fast after the volcanic eruption in 1783 and wiped out agriculture in large parts of Iceland. So in order to survive, many people moved to the coastal areas where they could at least survive on fish, since 50% of all livestock perished and 20% of all Icelanders. So those were bad times. But around here, there was some growth to be found, and it's believed that it had mainly to do with the good natural facilities for boats and the nearby good fishing grounds. But as for agriculture, a large part of the coastline was constantly eroding away, and still is. So the best piece of land was for sure this one, deep in the bay, sheltered from sea erosion, with nice flat fields, and it is called Bessastaðir. And during the 13th century, Bessastaðir was one of the properties that Snorri Sturluson owned, but he was possibly the most influential Icelander ever, a politician, historian, poet, and the writer of some of the ancient Icelandic sagas. And after he was killed, the land was claimed by the King of Norway and used as a dwelling place for the king's highest ranking officials in Iceland. And there was also a prison there, a prison that brings our attention to this lava field. It is called Gálgahraun, which means gallows lava, named after the kind of gallows they used to hang people. And that's what it did there. However, there were no trees in Iceland back then, and a limited supply of imported timber, so legend has it that 2 lava columns were used to support only one crossbeam or just enough timber to execute criminals for as little crime as stealing butter. Human remains have been found there through times, and since I'm into this subject, I want to mention that from 1550 to 1830, there were 248 executions in Iceland. But I'm of course only talking about confirmed executions. But enough about that now. It was then in 1627 that Bessastaðir resisted an attack by Turkish slave raiders, and there was a school here for a while, or before it became a farm in the late 18th century. And the last owner donated the land to the state, and ever since it has been the official residence and home of the President of Iceland. So let's do like the tourists and peek through the windows. As we approach Bessastaðir today, we first see the church, and behind it is the official reception hall where other presidents, kings or queens, and other guests are welcomed by our president. And behind that building is his private home, where he lives with his wife and young children. And this is one of the good things about Iceland. The president can walk the streets like the rest of us, and the only shooting will be selfies and such. It was, however, a bit ridiculous how little security was around there for many years. Then the tourism increased after our currency crashed with the banks. So today the police has a small branch there, but there are no fences and such. And there is a certain dignity about this place. And a part of the dignity comes from the fact that we don't need more security than we have. But when the politicians come over, their dignity can disappear very fast. Like when we were replacing the Prime Minister a few years back after a scandal, and I took off to the President's residence, of course, to film this, and still not sure what to do with all the footage I got back then. This was a mini version of Icelandic politics, but let's move from politicians to other cabbage heads, since here we can find some of the first cabbage gardens in Iceland from around 1759. Iceland's vegetable culture would come out of the soil around here, like potatoes were grown here for the first time, so it's safe to say that they had some mighty good farmers around, who dared to try what others didn't, pioneers. Today, however, we can't find much agriculture around, just a few farms, and it was around this church where the oldest settlement was scattered around. And when I drive by, I never know what I'm going to find. Like this time, it was the season when the barnacle geese came to visit the president's residence, stopover, on the way to Greenland to breed. And sometimes I find seals around here. The Arctic tern is breeding around here, so we are very lucky to have all this wildlife almost midst in the metropolitan area. But now is time for some geological history. So back to the lava field. Not just has it its own questionable past. The lava field itself originated from this crater, 10 kilometers away. And from there we can follow intact lava channel for the next 3 kilometers until the lava spreads more out. And here we are midway on the way to the coast, where it finally stopped. So the lava field originates from a volcano by the plate boundaries, where 2 eruptions have occurred recently in a chapter of unrest that might go on for the next 200 years. And I already have about 100 videos online covering just that. So I'm not going over that story here. I am only going to say that where lava has once flowed, it might do so again. And notice this highway through the lava field. There we have a talking point that is just as good as they get here in Iceland. The road administration decided a long time ago to make this new road on this lava field to replace the old one. And the original plans were changed as much as possible to meet the demands of residents and nature conservationists, but not enough though, so it went all the way to court. And those who fought against the road were mainly concerned about the lava field as such, but that was not strong enough case for them. After all, we do have quite many lava fields in Iceland. So after years of struggle, they lost the battle to rescue the lava field. But the road administration, they had not won yet. When the elves found out that they were going ahead with the road, they started to protest as well, through some of the Icelanders who can see them and understand them. And the reason is that there was this elf church where the road was supposed to be. So what does the Icelandic road administration do in such cases? And for you who are curious about this, there are other stories of such incidents on YouTube. But in this case, the road administration made a deal with the elves. And this was shot when the elf church was transferred out of harm's way, where it is still today. It was in two parts, 20 tons and 50 tons, and not cheap, of course. And according to the news at the time, the elves were very satisfied with the project and expressed their gratitude. And in fact, it turned out to be way less problem to deal with the elves than the nature conservationists. And they would come again when the bulldozers arrived, so the last chapter of the disputes about the new road looked something like this. And the town got its new highway, which will be helpful for them into the future. And the final chapter about today's town visit is all about how do I feel about the town. And I used to live not far away from there. And a detour to Álftanes was often my way to unwind, have the camera with me and see what I could find by the coast. Like birds, horses, seals, but I never met any elves there. And just to have the camera with me was a good way to disconnect myself from work, go searching for motives and such. So I've often been around here. I've also had some good moments here, shooting northern lights. I do, however, prefer to shoot northern lights out of town due to the light pollution. But the northern lights are just northern lights. They just come fast and go fast, so we have to move fast. So in such cases, this location could save the evening. And this is also a good place to go after the sunsets. And I am actually a bit surprised how few tourists are around. But I can't say it bothers me. And what we should not expect to get here is the chance to go shopping. We couldn't even buy a hot dog here for decades, but it's getting a bit better now. There is no town center here, but the golf course might be the closest we get to it. And the town is actually scattered around in 3 parts. But I don't mind. I just hope that when they plan this area into the longer future, they won't ruin this unspoiled coastline. And actually, I think that it won't happen. And as it is now, this remains one of my favorite spots in the metropolitan area. And my next episode will be about Garðabær, the town that merged with Álftanes. And those 2 units are like black and white. That episode will be online very soon, and until then, I'm sending you best regards from my home country, Iceland.